Sports. It's who we are. It's what we do. It's how we roll. It's wins and losses, highs and lows. It's effort, respect, and dedication. The High School Sports Beat. Sports. It's who we are.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on the High School Sports Beat. I'm Dave Yates. We continue our look back at some of the stories we've covered over the last 9 years, beginning this week with a profile on the Bishop Kearney boys basketball team, a team with a track record for postseason success and a 14-year-old headed for greatness. Here's Bill Pucko.
It is something the folks at Bishop Kearney have become accustomed to. The sound of basketball to hardwood deep into March. It is a tradition Ed Notopsky brought with him from Cardinal Mooney 2 decades ago.
He definitely laid the foundation, and I've been, the benefit of that. It's what attracted me to the school 8 years ago was the fact that the foundation was here and the success was here, and that they wanted to win, and I think that hasn't changed.
Notopsky won 6 Section 5 championships here. His successor and current coach John Boone now owns 6, all coming in the last 7 seasons. Senior Adele Freeman is trying to bookend his career as a state champion. He was part of the Kings' 2009 title team.
It's interesting throughout the games we play because there's always like a packed crowd no matter where we're at, from Niagara to our home games to city schools, especially when we play Aquinas.
But that's all good, right?
Right. So when we come down and go to Buffalo State and play a team from that area, and it's their fans base is there, it's a good experience.
Still, it has been a bit of a roller coaster ride for the Kings, who finished 12-6, playing an aggressive schedule. Included was a high-profile loss to Aquinas, played before several thousand at the War Memorial in February. Kearney lost a big early lead in that game.
We put it as like another game on our record, learned from it, moved on, so we won't lose in a certain situation like that again.
It meant a lot to where we had to do what we had to do, but it only makes us stronger because unfortunately we lost the game, so it just makes us stronger in the longer run.
Kind of exciting to play in it, though. I mean, with the crowd and everything that was surrounding it, that was really cool, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it was. It was very awesome. We're playing around those college coaches and the team and the teammates and the crowd around you that's cheering for you. That's great.
As good as the present is, and it is very good, the future might even be better. Bryant is a 14-year-old freshman who was already attracting big-time college recruiters. What do you think of expectation? I mean, you've got college coaches that are coming in to look at you, and you're just 14 years old, and you're so good already. That's a bit of a burden to bear, isn't it?
It's not much of a burden. You just don't think about it. You just play your game like you usually do.
He's going to be as good as he wants to be. He works extremely hard. He's still got a lot of things that he can get better at, which is kind of scary. He's still trying to get used to his body. I mean, he's grown 7 inches in the last 2 years, so he's still trying to get used to that. I mean, physically he hasn't filled out yet. I mean, he can put on probably another 20, 30 pounds with that frame. I mean, he's going to be as good as he wants to be.
Do you sneak a peek at the future? As good as this team is right now, you've got a chance with you coming back and getting better, and you got a chance to be better next year.
Oh yes, just keep getting better, just keep working, and you'll improve every time you work harder.
The sound of basketball to hardwood deep into March. It's a way of life at Bishop Kearney.
I mean, I think we try to use the sport as a life tool. I mean, I've been involved in athletics my whole life, and I think you can just learn so much from being a part of a team that you can apply to everyday life. Having to work with others, not always getting along and still having to do, all the tools that we have to do to work our everyday job. I mean, I think you get out of sports, and I think that's really what we, as an athletic program, in all our sports, we really try to incorporate into the kids is, this is more than just a sport. It's about, life also.
Yeah, things which exist, win or lose, right?
Yeah, well, and winning and losing is part of life too. Learning how to, be, humble when you win and learning how to accept defeat and grow from it.
Thomas Bryant played at Indiana and was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. He now finds himself with the Washington Wizards, where he averaged 12 points a game with 6.8 rebounds in an injury-shortened season. Well, coming up next, Matt Trabold joins us for the High School Notebook. We'll have that and more when the High School Sports Beat continues. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the High School Sports Beat. I'm Dave Yates. It is time now for the High School Notebook. And once again this week, we are very happy to be joined by Matt Trabold. Matt, thanks for hopping on board with us from quarantine heaven.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Hey, let's talk about, speaking of quarantines and everything going on right now, one of the local guys at Yale right now who's doing more than just trying to stay active as a lacrosse player. He's got a lot more on his plate right now, doesn't he?
Yeah, so former Palmyra-Masson lacrosse player Ben Reeves, he won the Heisman of Collegiate Lacrosse, the Tewaaraton Award, while at Yale in 2018 for his undergrad after leading the nation in points that season and also leading the Eli's to a national championship that year. So he now plays in the Premier Lacrosse League. Reeves is currently helping out in coronavirus times that we're in, you mentioned a second ago, in two distinct ways, two important ways, two very impressive ways. One way is a more hands-on approach as a first-year medical student at his undergrad alma mater, Yale, so he is back at Yale right now. And then secondly, alongside fellow Premier Lacrosse League player and first-year Yale medical student Tyler Warner, they are heading a social media challenge for the PLL called the Stay-at-Home Trick Shot Challenge. So Ben is a busy man right now. He's getting kids involved because they're home a lot more now. So it's really good to see kind of bringing in everybody and also helping on the front lines, per se, when it comes to the actual virus, the medical side.
All right, let's turn our attention now to women's lacrosse in Syracuse and a local athlete who has made the decision to stay put for another year.
Yeah, so on March 30th, the NCAA Division I Council passed a vote to award all spring sports athletes, so student athletes who saw their 2020 season cut significantly short due to the pandemic, an extra year of eligibility. Seniors or otherwise, it's a senior case here. Then within the last week, Victor High School product and Syracuse University women's lacrosse star Emily Howershuk, she gave the lacrosse world, that college lacrosse world, some much-needed good news at a time like this when she announced she would be taking the NCAA up on that offer and returning for a fifth season in Orange. The All-American, she ranked second in the country in goals this past season, total goals and goal scoring average with 39 goals in, get this, just 8 games. Absolutely absurd. She had 7 in a couple games. And then against some ranked teams, she had 6 goals against ranked Northwestern and 5 goals against ranked Maryland. Maybe the best player in the country. She's from here. She's from the Rochester area, and she's going back for one more year. Let's see if they can really turn that into maybe a national championship, but definitely a lot of success one more season around in the career of Emily Howershuk.
Now, obviously, Syracuse men's lacrosse has such a great reputation. Women's lacrosse, not really as well renowned.
Absolutely, and they were top 5. I believe they were 4th to end the season in the coaches poll, the main poll going out there in women's college lacrosse. So that's a big deal because, like you said, they're known for obviously the men's side of the thing a little bit more, but under Howershuk, they really saw a rise and maybe their best little span of seasons in a very long time in the career of that program.
All right, Matt, let's talk now about some hoops and a guy who from Rochester who had, his season, as everybody else, cut short, but things were looking good for Thomas Bryant.
Yeah, so keeping up with that deserving Thomas Bryant trend of this episode, Thomas was having by far his best season of his young NBA career when he came down with a right foot injury on December 1st. So despite limited minutes in his first game back on January 12th after missing those 6 weeks because of that stress reaction in that right foot, the team weaned him back into minutes to prevent further injury. Makes sense. And he impressed versus the defending NBA Defensive Player of the Year in Rudy Gobert, had 8 points in just 15 minutes of play. He had 20 games before that hiatus came with the NBA suspending play due to the pandemic and after the hiatus of the injury. So he scored in double figures 11 times over those 20 games. That's 3 double-doubles, which shows he's ready to bang on the blocks, and that foot seems to be a lot better. The best performance arguably being 18 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. 6 assists big for a big man, almost a triple-double there. And that was versus the NBA leading Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo being out in that game or not, still very impressive. It is good to see him back healthy.
All right. Great stuff, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us once again this week, and we'll probably see you back here again very soon. And we will be back with more of the High School Sports Beat right after this. Well, coming up next, the Making the Grade nominee with Kyle O'Gara. And later, our first look at one of our favorite events, the Steeplechase. Well, that story when the High School Sports Beat returns.
Welcome back, and thank you for watching the High School Sports Beat. I'm Kyle O'Gara.
Making the grade this week is Pembroke Junior Emily Peters. Emily is a triple threat athletically, as she plays varsity basketball, runs cross country, and runs track and field. As if being an athlete in 3 different sports wasn't impressive enough, Emily has been on each team for 5 years. Emily has 3 Class C sectional titles, holds the school record for 3-pointers, and has made multiple all-star teams for all of her sports. In the classroom, Emily has a perfect 100% average, is class vice president, a member of the National Honor Society, and a president of the DECA chapter. This week, Emily Peters is making the grade.
If you have a student in mind for our Making the Grade segment, we want your nominations. Send them into mtg@rocksportsnow.com. Now here's Dave and the McArdles Section 5 Spotlight.
Thanks, Kyle. Here's how some of the athletes, teams, and coaches are handling quarantine in this week's Section 5 Spotlight, brought to you by McArdles in Fairport. Come home to McArdles.
McArdles is open for takeout and delivery with DoorDash and Grubhub every day of the week. Visit our website, eatatmcardles.com.
Well, Victor golf coach Trevor Sousa's workout will make you flip.
Gotta get the flips from this view. It's for all the people that thought it was fake. But still go.
Pittsford senior Sophie Brown shares a lesson in the ABCs of D
My name is Sophie Brown.
in lacrosse.
I'm a senior defender at Pittsford, and I'm going to be teaching you how to do the ABCs of defense. The first is the A, which is approach. When you're approaching an attacker, you always want to go at them on like an angle to force them the direction you want them to go into. So if I want my defender to go toward that way, I'm not going to approach her straight on because she'll be able to beat me. I'll go at her at an angle, and so that she'll have to run that way. The second is B, which is break down. When you're approaching your defender, you don't want to take giant steps toward her because you won't be able to break your feet down. So you have to run at her and break down. Then C is contact. When you're making contact with your attacker, you can't just push her like that. You get a call every time. You have to approach her, break down your feet, and you try to make contact with your stick horizontal, and you just try to make contact with her hips, with your hands on your hips, and you force her the way that you want her to go. Hope it helps. Happy quarantine.
Spencerport Girls JV lacrosse coach Tara Pittman is making sure her team is taken care of with a little care package and a positive message. Well, if your team or school would like to share their quarantine activities, workouts, or challenges, just let us know. Tag @High School Sports Beat on social media. Well, coming up next, trying to keep your feet dry in the steeplechase. We'll see how tough that is to do when the high school sports beat continues.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us on the High School Sports Beat. I'm Dave Yates. The steeplechase is an event unique to the outdoor track season, and one we have enjoyed covering since this story in May of 2012.
It looms over the track meet like the intimidating threat that it is. The water pit. 12 feet long, sloping from 27 inches at its deepest to surface level. It is the place to be if you're watching the steeplechase.
It's a different event. It's one that really attracts the crowd, and it's just something different. And just because you're necessary, it doesn't necessarily carry on that you might be really good on a regular on the flat track thing. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good steeple person, and vice versa.
The steeplechase was originally an English cross-country race where they'd go town to town between church steeples, an easy landmark. When it was brought onto the track in the 1860s, the water pit came with it. The boys go 3,000 meters, the girls 2,000. It is a formidable distance race. The course complicated by 4 immovable barriers and the pit.
It's a little different than the barriers, because the barriers we can practice during practice. We can pull out a barrier and hop over them to practice it, but it's kind of hard to practice the water jump. So it's definitely very intimidating, and to do it right is very challenging.
Penfield's outstanding distance runner, Leela Mantia, was running the steeplechase for the first time.
Honestly, I just wanted to try something different, so I thought the steeple would be good because I'm a distance runner and everything. But I was pretty nervous last night thinking about it because I'd never done it before, and I hadn't even gone through a water barrier yet. So before the race, I was just hoping that I wouldn't mess up and I wouldn't fall and hurt myself, and I didn't, so that was good.
Leela completed the course in 7 minutes, 8.98 seconds, a Penfield school record. Not bad for a first-timer.
And I felt really good during the whole time, so I think I can go faster.
Likewise, in the boys' race, Hilton sophomore Tyler Ranke, who's getting pretty good at this already, set his school steeplechase record.
I think a lot of people who don't do it probably don't understand how difficult it is. You come around when you find out you still have a mile left. It's really, you gotta be mentally tough.
What about hitting the water? How does that affect the way you're able to complete the race?
Well, I think that you go around your first lap. Water's cold, first of all, and then I guess at first it kind of bothers you a little bit, but as the race goes on, I guess it just slips. You don't remember really, and just keep going. Kind of forget about it.
But admit it, we do. You watch the steeplechase, which is only offered at large multi-team meets, for the wrecks, the disasters, the falls. We got lucky. Pittsford Sutherland's Jessica Mulroy did not.
I took a hit. I'm kind of like a 5-year-old boy. I like to go into school and be like, oh, look at all the bruises I got from steeple. But you just kind of have to separate yourself from each time. You have to attack each one like it's the first one.
In terms of it being embarrassing, that doesn't enter into it, does it?
Not really. You just kind of put yourself in a different place and you just run it. It's almost like an out-of-body. You take yourself away, Jessica's not here anymore, and then you just run.
And it's like, anybody who thinks this is funny, you get in here and try it, right?
Yeah. It's, my friend Audrey was commenting, oh, they're all lined up to watch us all fall into the water pit.
Tyler Ranke went on to UAlbany and competed in the steeplechase for Team USA in the Pan American Junior Games, where he finished third in 2015. Layla Mantilli went on a run for Columbia University, where she was a two-time All-Ivy League in cross country. Layla now works as an architectural designer. We'd like to thank the athletes, teams, and coaches in Section 5. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Take care, and please be safe.